awkward doing it this way because when I share a screen, that kills the gallery view unless you happen to be working with two computer screens, which I am. I want to welcome everybody to the April meeting of the Community Board 12 Parks and Cultural Affairs Committee. We are still meeting on Zoom, and I'm happy to say that while we will resume in-person meetings for the general meeting with our April meeting, with our May meeting. So in April, the general meeting will be on Zoom, but beginning in May, we will have our general meetings be in a hybrid format. So we will be in person for the general meeting in May at the Russ Berry Institute on St. Nicholas Avenue between 168th and 167th Streets with a hybrid option. So to be clear, according to the New York State open meetings law, you only count for quorum. The quorum has to be an in-person quorum. So we encourage people to show up in person for the board meetings because we will need 26 board members to be present in order to have a quorum. If you must attend by Zoom for reasons of, your own illness, concerns related to the pandemic and not being able to be in a crowded room with other people, or because you're traveling and through the miracles of technology, you can still attend a meeting even though you're not here. Your attendance by Zoom will still count and you can still vote, but you will not count for quorum. So it's very important for all of the board members who are able to attend in person to do so beginning in May. That's for the general meetings. For the committee meetings, we will continue to meet by Zoom. There are a whole bunch of things that are difficult about Zoom. We've got poor Sergeant Rodriguez from the 33rd Precinct who's saying he's got technical difficulties. That totally happens. There are ways in which Zoom is not quite as interactive and makes certain kinds of discussion more difficult, but we're getting sometimes as many as 60 or 70 people attending committee meetings, which would never happen in person. And we also have a much easier ability to have guests drop in when they wouldn't be able to come because of transportation. They can just drop in, give their presentation and leave. And we just have much more access to different kinds of presentation and representation from various agencies. So as with many committees, we will continue to meet on Zoom. So I also want to just give people a heads up, sort of an administrative heads up reminder on how the chat and the Q&A functions work. So you can use the chat to announce that you are having technical difficulties, to ask clarifying questions like, could you please share your contact information? Or could you repeat that? I didn't hear you. Or to raise your hand if you would like to speak during a particular part of the presentation. But in the same way that we would not in an in-person setting jump up and start waving our hands and shouting things out, we also don't blow up the chat with running commentary and what about this, or ooh, can I just want to throw this point in here, because I try to monitor the chat, but it becomes a little bit distracting if folks are blowing up the chat with a lot of questions. So when we get to discussion points, I will welcome people to raise their hands using the raise hand feature, and then I can call on you in the order in which you raise your hand, and I will unmute you so that you can speak. So finally, just a couple of announcements on some things that I have been up to since we last met. Has everybody had a chance to take a look at the agenda? Can I kill the screen share? Okay. Thank you. So in the last, since our last meeting, at our general meeting, we did have a resolution that came under new business about the Hispanic Society Museum and Library, which since our last meeting, the workers there have gone on strike. The community board at our general meeting passed a resolution in support of calling on all parties. I want to get the wording right, so I'm going to pull up that document. Calling on all parties to work towards an equitable and mutually beneficial solution, and urging all parties to negotiate in good faith so employees can return to work and the museum can reopen to the community. So that passed with, I don't know, I think 38 in favor, one opposed, and one abstaining or something like that. And later on in the agenda, we have the executive director of the museum, Guillaume Kainz, who was actually on tap already to give a presentation and update as to what's going on at the museum. So we'll have that agenda item a little bit later in the meeting. Participatory budgeting, we don't have any announcements yet from the council members as to which projects are going to be funded through PB. I believe that announcement is imminent, possibly later this evening, possibly tomorrow. There were 3 parks-based projects, 2 dog runs, one of which we discussed at length at our last committee meeting, and another one in Highbridge Park. Also, somebody has a proposal for pickleball in Inwood Hill Park. So hopefully that will be, those will be highly ranked. And hopefully we'll have news on that soon. 2 other announcements regarding upcoming meetings: the Academy Street and North Cove Parks that the city's Economic Development Corporation is working on planning. We've had a couple of really good public meetings, and some on Zoom, some in person. There will be one final session on a week from yesterday, on Monday, the 24th. I can put into the Q&A, you can fill out a feedback survey if you would like. Nope, can't post that in the Q&A. Hold on. Sorry, one of the downsides of the Zoom format is if you are a panelist and you post something in the chat, it's only visible to the other panelists. Not sure how to get around that problem. I'll try and figure that out later in the meeting. But if you go to EDC's website, you can find a link to their survey for filling out, giving them feedback if you were not able to attend that meeting on Monday. The 175th anniversary of the Highbridge is coming up. There are lots of special events being planned for June 6th and 7th. There's also a really special 19th anniversary Hike the Heights scheduled for June 3rd, and that is also going to be linked into the celebration of the Highbridge. For more information on Hike the Heights, you can go to hiketheheights, all one word, .org. And I think that's about it. I think we've got Martin Collins in the house, so he can make NOMA announcements. And I just want to give everybody a heads up that our meeting next month, we will have on the agenda a presentation by the Parks Natural Area Resources Group. And we will also have a presentation by Ira Gershenhorn regarding stewardship at the Dykeman Pier. That's all I've got to report. Daryl, I see you've got your hand up.
Just if you could promote Jen Hoppe.
Oh, yes.
Thanks.
Thank you. and Danny.
I don't know if this helps, but I found the link and I was able to put it up on the webinar chat. I don't know if everyone can see it.
Yes. Can somebody in the attendees list, somebody has said that yes, they can see it. And I'm officially an idiot. I see there is somewhere where you can toggle it to say everyone. I just had my settings toggled to host and panelist. Thank you, Danny. I appreciate that. Okay, so I'm gonna, yep, you got your hand lowered. All right, so next up, we've got program updates. Folks are welcome to raise their hands if they'd like to give a quick 2-minute spiel on what's going on with their organization. I see Martin Collins first. Before I unmute you, I'm just going to set up my timer so that I can set you. I'm going to set the timer to 1 minute and 45 seconds. When the timer goes off, that's your cue that you have 15 seconds to wrap up. And go. Marty, are you?
I actually pressed a mute, so I apologize. If you could begin the 1 minute and 45 seconds now.
Okay.
Invite everybody to our Women of the Heights gallery, which is featuring 52 artists, including Liz Ritter, at the United Palace, ground floor on 175th Street and Broadway through June 29th. Gallery hours are Tuesdays and Saturdays from 1 to 5 p.m., except May 29th through June 14th, when the Tony Awards move in. More on that later. We will have a pre-stroll concert on May 9th. I apologize that it's on the same evening as your May meeting. That's the only night I can get the talent and the venue to agree on an evening. It'll be Tuesday, May 9th at 7:30 p.m. at the Harlem School of the Arts, featuring Emmett Cohen and multi-Grammy saxophonist Miguel Zenon at the Harlem School of the Arts. It'll also serve as a fundraiser for the Harlem School of the Arts Summer Camp for Children. The Uptown Art Stroll opening, the 21st stroll opening, will be on Thursday, June 1st from 6 to 8:30 p.m. at the Sugar Hill Museum on 155th and St. Nicholas Avenue. We invite you all to join us at what will be certainly a robust opening. We have 4 Monday night concerts coming up in June, 2 of them in Board 12. Annette Aguilar and the String Beans will perform Monday, June 5th at the Dykeman Farmhouse and Museum. And weather permitting, O'Brien Luna on Monday, June 12th at the Hispanic Society Museum at 6:30 p.m. The Tonys will come to the United Palace and broadcast live on CBS on Sunday night, June 11th, and it'll also be live streamed on Paramount Plus. Open studios, exhibitions, performances, and live events are being published as we speak in the Uptown Art Stroll Guide. I spent hours today writing it, and we ask people to please submit their events to the Art Stroll Guide online calendar by April 30th to be in the published guide. This is the published guide. And of course, we just had the winner of the Uptown Art Stroll poster contest, Devin White. She will grace the cover of the guide this year when we print our 10,000 guides and distribute them throughout Upper Manhattan. Finally, you can see the NOMA website, NOMAANYC.org, for details on all of Northern Manhattan Arts Alliance's programs and events.
Great. Thank you so much, Marty. And if you can send me that in summary, you don't need to copy anybody else because I'm the one who's going to be taking minutes this evening. I would appreciate that. And that goes for everybody. Anybody who's making a presentation, if you can just give me a quick email with a summary of what you said. Being able to cut and paste it makes it a lot easier than having to take notes while chairing a meeting.
Good. And Liz, if I might have 10 seconds,
Yes.
I want to thank, as you will later on in the meeting, I want to thank Jennifer Hoppe, the Manhattan Parks Administrator, and Fort Tryon Park Trust for all of her years of service. Neighborhood's loss is the city's gain, and we want to thank Jennifer. These were the years the tide came in, the years we moved again, the years we reached for and achieved excellence. Thank you, Jennifer Hoppe.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, next up, we've got Catherine Hughes from the Morris Jamel Mansion.
Hello there. We have some new summer hours happening after, as at Memorial Day, I should say. So on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, we're going to open from 1 to 4 in the afternoon, so that we are only closed on Monday in the summer. We also are going to be part of the Harlem Cultural Crawl. That is the weekend of April 29th and 30th. We have Marjorie Elliott playing on Saturday. I'm not going to actually invite anybody because it's sold out. It's free, but sold out. But on Sunday, we have the artist Tracy Telasco coming to talk about her revised histories exhibit that is all through the mansion. And she is speaking at 1 and 2:30, and there are tickets still available for that on our website. Those are free. You just have to do it in advance. We also are going to have 3 summer movies out in the park. We're excited to have these at the beginning of July, August, and September. 2 of them are through Inwood Artworks, the first 2, and then the park is actually presenting, the park system is presenting one on September 2nd. We don't have titles yet, but we know that they will be Spanish. They will be Spanish focused, but also family focused.
Nice.
So we'll be letting people know about that on our website. We also have a George Washington dinner on
And
July 9th.
Time.
Thank you.
That last item was George Washington dinner on July
July
9th.
9th. That is an outdoor dinner on our site celebrating the 1890 dinner with George Washington and his first cabinet.
Cool. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Next up, we've got Julie McCoy from the Inwood Canoe Club.
Hi, everyone. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Great. So I'm Julie McCoy, the Commodore of the Inwood Canoe Club, and we have a few things that are coming up, even though we're not quite to our open house season. This Saturday, as part of the citywide celebration of Earth Day, including Car-Free Earth Day on Dyckman Street, we are going to have what we are calling a dry or dehydrated open house. We are inviting people to come over between the hours of 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. to visit our club, learn about the local waterfront and its history in the community, and to learn a little bit about the club. We'll have some of our more interesting boats down and we'll be happy to talk to people. We're doing this because the water, even though it's spring, the water is still a bit too cold for casual paddling, but we are welcoming everybody to come and stop by between 10 and 3 Saturday on the 22nd. A bit further down the line, we will have our first open house program on Sunday, May 28th. That is the Sunday Memorial Day weekend, our traditional opening weekend. That'll be from approximately 10 to 12. Information is on our website, inwoodcanoenyc.org. And we look forward to seeing people and getting our open house program kicked off. We do have some additional programming coming up, some youth programs that are scheduled, and also we'll get some details over to Parks, but we will have some classes for the public taught by our instructors starting in June. That's what's coming up, and I'm happy to give you that report in writing, Liz.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Before we move to the next agenda item, I just want to let folks know that I forgot one item in my report. I also attended the inaugural meeting of New York Restoration Project's Community Advisory Board for their wetlands planning process. They too have a feedback survey. So now that I know, thanks to Danny, how to post things in the chat for everybody to see, I'm going to post that link for you there. Next up, we've got Jennifer Hoppe, who's going to give us a brief report. I'm just not going to say anything because I'm going to start to cry. So, Jennifer.
Thanks, Liz. So quickly, let's see if I can do this. Paula, can I share screen? Let's see if I can do it. Yes. So I don't know if you saw in timeout today, but can you see this? Or is the chat covering it?
We can see it.
Okay.
You can see it.
So today in timeout, 5 different parks were featured. It's part of Poetry in Parks. April is Poetry Month. The Parks Department and the New York Poetry Society collaborated on a 5-borough installation. And because Highbridge is so phenomenal, Highbridge is the Manhattan site. And this is a really cool poem by an artist called Oscuro Luz. You can read more about it on the Parks Department's website, or the Poetry Society has sort of like a virtual tour of all 5 sites. What's cool about this is it'll be up for a year. And so it'll be a backdrop during the Hike the Heights Festival in the beginning of June. And as Liz mentioned, we are celebrating the 175th anniversary of the historic Highbridge. So we're really excited that Highbridge got selected for this poetry installation. Some other fun things that are coming up. There's Earth Day at Fort Tryon Park with the Fort Tryon Park Trust. This Saturday, artist Marta Blair is going to be leading a mural making. Artist Jessica Mafia is going to show people how to recycle containers to make them for native plant plantings. And then, of course, we'll have a stewardship project. The Urban Park Rangers are doing an Earth Day nature hike on Saturday from 1 to 2. Meet at 218th Street to enter the park. And that's tied into everything. Sally's not here to share it, but the Friends of Inwood Hill Park are, as they have in all past years, are having an Earth Day festival. Chris Whitney from Friends told me it'll kick off the Friday night event, and then stewardship on Saturday, as well as drumming circle and other activities. They have a Facebook page, Friends of Inwood Hill Park, and the Urban Park Rangers are doing the hike in the midst of that. So they're also leading a Highbridge Park cleanup on Sunday, the 23rd at 1 p.m. At 165th Street in Edgecombe. So if you want to join them just to clean up for an hour, you can do that. You can walk to the Aqueduct Trail to the historic Highbridge, and you can get to see this great poetry installation. Also on Earth Day, the Parks Department's Recreation Division is having its first outdoor movie night of the season. So bundle up for Movies Under the Stars on Dongan Lawn at Broadway and Dongan. Paws of Fury. So that's definitely family friendly. And what's fun this year is there will be a short from the Pied Piper Children's Theater. Many of you may know they did their Peter Pan, and it was filmed in various parks uptown. So that's the opening act for Saturday night's movie on Dongan Lawn in Fort Tryon Park. And the event is sponsored by the Councilmember De La Rosa. There's a biodiversity hike coming up. Highbridge Park is having a spring festival on the 29th. All activities will be outside, and they'll be located 174th in Amsterdam. And it's free at noon on Saturday, the 29th. The Lenape, Historic New York, the Urban Park Rangers are having a Lenape of Mannahatta tour Saturday, May 6th from 11 to 12. And something that I know that Liz Ritter loves, we're having the Urban Wildlife Festival at Highbridge again this year, May 13th from noon to 3. There'll be a live band, there'll be activities, there'll be live animals that you'll get to interact with. It's pretty incredible to be up close with an eagle and many species of owls, and you'll get to pet a skunk and maybe even a porcupine. So it sounds like it's a kids event, but it really isn't. It's for all ages, and it's phenomenal. It's the Urban Wildlife Festival, May 13th. And there are lots of other opportunities going on. northernmanhattanparks.org is the shortcut. You click on events. Dykeman Farmhouse has some phenomenal things coming up. Our friends at the New York City Mountain Biking Association and other partners. So make sure to check it out. Quickly on the Capitol front, I'd gotten inquiries about the West Side Bike Path, which is Fort Washington Park between 180th Street and Dykeman Street. That's part of the retaining wall project that this committee had reviewed. Because we had those cold snaps in, I believe it was January, the contractor stopped work. And they're going to be resuming it. I've heard from engineering tonight, probably this summer. So we recognize that the West Side Bike Path is not in ideal shape right now, but it is rideable. And then come this summer, they're going to complete the work on the retaining wall collapse in the sinkhole areas. So last but not least, I wanted to announce that I have taken on a new position with the Parks Department. I'm becoming the Chief Strategy Officer for the Commissioner. And I will be based down at the Arsenal. And I will miss everyone in our amazing community very much. And it's been such an honor to work alongside you for the past 16.5 years. But the good news is the Parks Department has brought back Danny Hernandez, who had been our administrative park and recreation manager before. He's an expert on operations uptown. He is phenomenal with our staff, our team members, and he's worked with many of you already in the community. And his level of dedication is unsurpassed. So he's on this call tonight. And I just want you all to give him your full cooperation. He's a great ally to have. And I know I'm so grateful that he has agreed to come back and help during this transition.
I'm not gonna lie, kind of breaks my heart. But I agree with you that Danny is great, and I'm super happy that he's the new you. And you know, we're very lucky, and I think we're also very lucky to have the Uptown voice represented citywide in parks planning. So that's super exciting. I know we're kind of at time, but and not to put you terribly on the spot, Danny, but if you want to, you know, give a minute of whatever in terms of, you know, your vision for the gig, and not to put you on the spot, but I'm putting you on the spot.
But thank you. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Jennifer, for those kind words. I just want to say congratulations to Jennifer, though, first and foremost. She's definitely going to be missed. She's been doing tremendous work throughout Northern Manhattan. And I was here a few years ago as the park manager for Northern Manhattan, and I definitely learned a lot from Jennifer. And yes, I've returned to help out. You know, I love Northern Manhattan. My goal is just to make sure, I don't know if I could be able to fill the shoes of Miss Jennifer Hopper, but I could certainly do my best in making sure that our properties and the community have safe and clean spaces in which to enjoy. And if there's anything I can do whatsoever for concern-wise, I'm there to do that.
Thank you so much. I do have a question in the chat saying congratulations to Jennifer, and can we get Danny's contact information? So if you would be willing to say that out loud, and also to throw into the chat so that everybody has your contact information. Uptown, as I know you know, we're kind of a demanding bunch, but we also work hard and jump in to help and volunteer. So we're a vocal group, but we're all pretty good, I think, community partners. So welcome, Danny. And
thank you. And I'll put it in the chat.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much. Okay, so next we've got
to ask a question, quick question.
yes, sure. Sorry, I didn't realize I had some questions, some hands raised. We got Naima and then Daryl.
No problem. You're doing a lot. Thank you, Liz. Jennifer, congratulations on your new role, and Danny, welcome. I just had a quick question regarding, this is a quick question regarding Quisqueya Plaza. Even if you can send an email or something or share the information with Liz, but I just want to know, what is the process to request the space? Only because so far it's only seemed to be certain folks that have access to the space. And so
I'm actually going to jump in and answer that. I believe that is a DOT it's not a park space. So the process and the rules and all of that you'll find on the DOT website. And sorry to be putting everybody on the spot, but we actually, because DOT comes into play in the discussion we're going to be having later, I'm just going to ask Lyle Blackwood from DOT if he has a specific website or off the top of his head has information on the usage of the Cascaya Plaza.
Good evening, Liz. Evening, everyone. Lyle Blackwood from DOT. Yes, Liz is correct. The plaza is under DOT's jurisdiction. All plazas, for the most part, are. We do have a maintenance partner with the plaza. That would be Dykeman Gardens. So that would be made up of some of the owners of restaurants along that stretch. You should be able to use the plaza, for your own programming. If you go through them and through DOT. So I can put my email in the chat. You can send me an email and I can forward that request over to our public spaces division. They're the ones who oversee, along with the maintenance partner, that space, and we can get some answers for you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate
No
that.
problem.
Thank you.
Daryl.
Yes, thank you. Just a quick question. I was over at near Inspiration Point recently, and forgive me, I can't remember if it's just to the north or just to the south, but there's an area that has a patch, like an asphalt patch. It's rather large, but on either side where the seams are, it is buckling or sinking, and it really is causing, for the bike path especially, I would think, areas that aren't exactly very visible, but once you get there, there's like sometimes a good 9 inches to a foot of difference between the grading there.
Do you mean where if you're at Inspiration Points to your back, there's a big platform? Do you mean that?
It's not right in front of Inspiration.
No,
It's
I
on,
think
it's on the
Danny-
pathway nearby. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's that same area that Maggie had mentioned. And that and Facebook, it's part of that pathway that's been a problem since the repaving in January. Please tell me that that's on somebody's radar to fix.
Yeah, that's the paving that was done was pretty much temporary because of the cold temperatures. They sort of had to abort the project, so they're coming back. But Danny can see what our staff can do in the meantime. Maybe safety yellow, something. Yeah, safety paint. Yeah, safety yellow over the bumps would be good, particularly given that stretch doesn't have lighting. Hint, Lyle.
Okay, in an effort to move the.
Hold on, Liz. Sorry, I just have to add. Jennifer, I think I've known you since my Jerry days, your C Virginia days. So you will be missed. So thank you.
Over 20 years, Daryl. Well, I'm told that the June 17th festival in Ann Loftus will also be a farewell. So come on by to say goodbye.
Great.
But I'll continue to live in the neighborhood.
Fantastic. Danny, I'm going to let you get the last word.
It's super quick. I just put up the link where people could see the kind of permits they have for plazas on the chat.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, I would like to move the agenda because I want to try and be respectful of everybody's time. And up next, Guillaume, I think I may have mispronounced your last name. What is the correct pronunciation of your last name? It's
my last name?
Yes.
Keynes.
Keynes. Okay. Apologize for mispronouncing it.
That's okay. That's okay.
So welcome. I'm glad that you were able to come to this evening's meeting to give us a little bit of information on what's going on at the Hispanic Society. I understand that the employees are currently on strike because of the way that labor negotiations work. I imagine, I'm looking at the chat and at the participants list, and I see that some of the employees who work at the museum are on this call, which is totally appropriate. This is an open public meeting. They may have questions and feedback, and that's fine. Folks who are listening and who are not panelists, I will call on you in turn when you raise your hands, but I just want to caution everybody and remind everybody that this is a community meeting. We are not a labor organization. We are not mediators, and we're not really able to have any kind of back and forth or take a particular position in terms of management or the union. So I just want to give that as a heads up and context. So Guillaume, if you can give us a little bit of information on what's happening at the museum.
Absolutely, and thank you for that opportunity to give you some updates about what's happening at the museum. We were supposed to reopen on April 6th, so I guess I owe you an explanation about why we are not reopened on April 6th.
Indeed.
And of course, I'm happy to take some questions after. I thought I would share my screen and give this group a little recap. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Sorry, we get to the beginning recap. Here we are. Okay, so basically, I'm going to do this recap, tell you what will reopen in the facility, what will happen hopefully in the upcoming months, and when the reopening could be. I don't have a date. I just want to warn you, but I'm happy to share with you what I know, what I can disclose. I appreciate the expectations, the impatience, and I'm sure there will be some questions. So basically in December 2016, the Hispanic Society Museum and Library closed for extensive renovation. Between 2017 and 2019, we addressed, I wasn't there, but the Hispanic Society addressed the main building envelopes, renovations, so the facades and the roof. So that was a very important endeavor, because that's the first thing to do to protect the envelopes. So the envelope protects what's inside of the building. In 2019, there was a change of scope for a more ambitious program, and Annabel Seldorf, architects and BBB were appointed to devise a master plan. Between 2019 and 2021 happened the design phase of this master plan, and especially for the East Building, which is the building on Broadway, formerly known as the Museum of American Indians, that moved downtown in the 90s and were acquired by the Hispanic Society then. So just a little recap on our campus. So this is the East Building, this is the main building, and this is the North Building. So of course, in the middle of all that, a pandemic hit, and that slowed down some of the progress. So what we did in 2021, as progressively life was resuming, we opened a temporary exhibition gallery in the East Building ground floor. That's when I joined. We appreciated that our community missed the museum, missed its many masterpieces, and as again life was coming back and resuming, we wanted to be part of that. And we've been pretty active during the pandemic, offsite, online, on the terrace, and we wanted to start a reopening process. And that reopening process started with the East Building Gallery, and started with an exhibition about In the Heights in the gallery, and which was a collaboration with NOMA, and another collaboration with NOMA on the Broadway terrace, about 4 murals telling the stories of Latinx diaspora in Upper Manhattan. So that's what happened in the first half of 2021, and since then we've done all the exhibitions in this space. So then really I felt strongly that the East Building renovation is important, but that was likely to take years to be completed, and I know that many were missing the main court and the Sorolla Gallery, and 2023 is the centennial of Sorolla, and also, to be fully transparent, we didn't have all the funding. We still don't have all the funding to renovate the East building. So I thought that, okay, let's pause a bit on the East building and buy some time, get our plans all together and move forward with the main court, of which the roof had been replaced already. And what we had to do is to improve the climate, to make it accessible, compliant, and so on. And so, and the other reason why I thought that was the right thing to do is that because after having restored renovated the East building, well, people will still be disappointed not to have access to the Sorolla Gallery and the main court. So this is why we proceeded with the reopening of the main court and the Sorolla Gallery and the reading room, and that is almost completed. And the next phase will be the completion of the East building, which you have here. And I put you some high-level figures to let you understand a bit what kind of dollar amount we are speaking about. So, of course, the facility needed and still needs a lot of love. Maintenance was not always what it should have been, and we had to catch up a lot on this front. First I wanted to show you what's the plan for the East building. I already shared that in a previous intervention in this community board, but the idea is that the East building will have a visitor center, education center, conservation lab, and a large state-of-the-art exhibition gallery. So as I was saying, the facility needed and still needs a lot of love. We had a lot to catch up on, and we have been addressing that in the last 2 years, increasing quite significantly the maintenance and repair budget. So first question, what part of the Hispanic Society Museum and Library will reopen? So the reading room, the main court, the Sorolla Gallery, and the project gallery. And I will put some images on those. But first of all, just for those who haven't been in the museum before, that shows you, some of the issues that we had to deal with. And I'm very proud that, all collectively, we managed to address many of those. We still have more to address, but we're definitely heading to the right direction. So those photos are quite impressive. In June 2021, we had a leak in the reading room, and it was raining in the reading room. So we had to move very fast to protect what we could protect, to evacuate what was most sensitive. And this is what it looks like now. I took this photo yesterday. And as a result of the leaking, the interior, the decoration of the reading room was very damaged. And this is another picture of the reading room as it was. And this is a recent photo of the reading room again that I took yesterday or the day before. So we are keeping the magic, we are keeping the soul of this fantastic institution, and I'm happy to share with you those images of this reading room back to its original charm and splendor. So now the Sorolla Gallery. So the Sorolla Gallery was renovated at some point in 2010, but because it's the last gallery that you can walk in when you visit the museum, it was not ADA compliant, it was not wheelchair accessible. So somehow it is not a space that we could open to the visit. So most of our effort together with upgrades and repairs and safety issues was to accessibilize the main court and the Sorolla Gallery. And also in the Sorolla Gallery, you might remember if you went there, there was a big HVAC device that we removed, that we put in the attic, and so that we can enjoy the entirety of the Sorolla Gallery now. So as I said, accessibility is really a big part of what we've done. So we have installed a ramp to take visitors from the Broadway terrace to the upper terrace. It's not a ramp, sorry, it's a lift. It's a platform, a wheelchair platform, and another one, similar system to take visitors from the upper terrace to the main building. What happened is that this one, for the main stairs platform lift, was delivered the wrong size. So we had to send it back and we had to wait to the right one to come. So this is one of the reasons why the opening was delayed. And I'm happy to say that it has arrived yet, but we still need to finish the installation. And then we need to have the DOB, the Department of Building, to come and to prove it and to approve it and to give us the green light. And once that is done, we'll have more clarity about when we can reopen. So as part of this accessibility project, we have now an ADA inclusive bathroom in what used to be Archer Huntington, our founder, Archer Huntington's office. And in the same space, another part of the space, we have set up a little gift shop. So our museum is free, and library, they are free of charge, free of admission free. But if people want to spend some money, they're welcome to do it in the gift shop. We have a lot of great publications to offer.
Great.
This is the main court as the way it looks now. So that's again fully accessible with a new lighting system, and you see some of the Soroyas that we have put on display in the context of the centennial of Joaquin Sorolla. So then the question, what you will see at the Hispanic Society once it has.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I just, you're about at time. So,
oh gosh,
and I want to leave a couple minutes for, because I see already we have some hands.
Absolutely, I'll go quick. So we will celebrate Sorolla and Soto. Soto is a Venezuelan kinetic artist. Sorolla died in 1923. Soto was born in 1923. So we want to celebrate both their centennial. And we'll have an exhibition about Juan de Parera with the intervention of Brooklyn-based artist Jazz Knight. Later in the spring, we'll have a jewel exhibition featuring Spanish jewel designer Luz Camino, whose creation dialogue with Sorolla's painting. And about the same time, we have the installation on the terrace of a large penetrable by Jesus Rafael Soto. It's a long-term loan from a private collection in New York. So we think people will love it. And in the summer, we will open Orozco, Jose Clemente Orozco, a show about the donation of drawings that we received 2 years ago now. And as a partnership with NOMA, we will have an installation of an artwork by Marta Chilindron on the Broadway terrace that will spend a few months with us. So that's what is about the program. So now let's go to the questions. So when will it reopen? Again, I'm sorry and I apologize. I cannot give you a date. One, because we don't know yet when the DOB will approve the lift. 2, because as Liz explained, we are facing a strike among the personnel of the Hispanic Society, so we want to resolve that. Second question, when will the collection be back? So some of our highlights were in London for a great exhibition. They are on their way back, and we plan to reinstall your favorite masterpieces by the fall at the latest. And well, when will the staff be back? This is perhaps when I can give you like an update about the union situation at the Hispanic Society. I don't think I need to share my screen again, so I can see you all. So here is the thing. Mid-March, we made a proposal as part of the negotiation. We understand that this proposal was put to a vote. It was turned down by the unionized employees. we didn't receive any counter proposal. Then we read in the press that a strike was about to start, and it did start on Monday, the 27th. So after 1 week of strike, we brought in a federal mediator to get us back to the bargaining table. We had a session on April the 3rd. The Hispanic Society is willing to maintain current benefits, current healthcare benefits for current employees, including very recent employees, which is free healthcare, 100% coverage of premiums and deductibles, and would only ask for a future hire to contribute somehow to their healthcare benefits. So that's currently what is on the table. I'm just singling out this point because flyers are handing that we're cutting benefits, which is not.
I'm actually going to kind of stop you there a little bit,
Sure.
because I feel a little uncomfortable with. It's not really the role of this committee to get into this is what management is offering, this is what labor wants. It was most appropriate for you to speak to, sort of the capital development, what's going on with the collections, what the future programming things are. You wound up opening the door a little bit on what management, that's okay, on what management is offering. So I feel that it may come up. I don't know exactly. I have no way of knowing what are the questions that the people who are raising their hands may wish to ask, or what are the points that they may wish to make. But an area of dialogue that I initially would not have felt is really appropriate for this committee, you did kind of open the door on that.
Okay,
So
my apologies.
that's quite all right. But anyway, let's see. Thank you for that.
Sure.
And I want to see if I've got one question from one of the panelists, from Daryl, one of our committee members, and then I'm gonna do a lap through the public. Daryl, what you got?
Yeah, I just had a question about the ADA access and the lifts. I'm a little curious why there's not ramps instead of a lift, but with the lifts, are they who's operating them? Or they can be totally operated by?
No, we'll have staff operating them. We'll have trained staff operating them. The reason that couldn't be a ramp is that it would have taken too much space from the Broadway terrace, especially. We already have a ramp taking visitors from Broadway to the Broadway terrace, and we just looked at what was possible, because you have to you have a special slope on those ramp, and it was not possible or compatible with the current ramp that we already have. So we thought that a lift would be more appropriate, and yes, we'll have trained staff to operate it.
And they'll be stationed there, or like there'll be a doorbell or something?
There'll be a doorbell.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, I just, to Daryl's point, one of the things about accessibility is really removing not just the physical barriers, but any kind of barriers. So it's going to be very, very important for staff to understand that they have to be super responsive to any kind of ringing of a bell. I think it's better when people are able to do something for themselves that is the ultimate in accessibility and in user empowerment. That's not always practical. And sometimes there are difficulties when you're talking about much older buildings that have to be retrofitted to accessibility. So I understand this. I don't love it as a design choice, but I understand it. But that does then mean that it is incumbent upon the operational staff to not have a lack of staffing or a delay in staffing serve as a barrier to access, even though there's an elevator. Because then that just kind of reduces folks who need to use the elevator to a kind of second class user status, and we wouldn't want to do that. So that's going to be, I think, a likely in-service requirement for your staff when you go live with the elevator.
Absolutely, and eventually the idea is that the East building will provide, a full accessibility with an elevator that everyone will use to go to the second floor, which
Excellent.
match with the main floor of the main building. That's the ultimate vision.
Excellent, excellent. Glad to hear that. Moving over to the public, I've got Raquel. Can you tell me how to pronounce your last name, please?
Dutois.
Dutois. Okay.
Hi, Raquel.
Hello. Hello, members of the board in our neighborhoods. Y mis vecinos who might be watching tonight. My name is Raquel Dutois, and I'm also a community member for the past 15 years, as well as the employee of the Hispanic Society Museum and Library. Where currently, all union eligible employees are still on strike after 4 weeks of silence from management. As museum professionals, but also residents of this neighborhood, we are desperate to bring the museum to its full potential as a resource for the community. When the pandemic hit, museum staff worked tirelessly to adapt our programming to crisis in reality. And while New Yorkers struggled to safely reopen the city, Hispanic Society management cut pension benefits in an effort to free up our operating budget on the backs of workers who are asking only to retain a minimum amount of compensation for the work that they do. Management claims to have backed off proposed cut healthcare, but has only offered to do so for some employees, creating an unfair two-tier system. Two-tier is divisive. They're asking us to sell out the new employees. We're not just in it for ourselves, but to make HSA better, a fairer place for all workers, new and old. And we know that what they think of long-term employees, because they are publicly despairing long-term employees. What this means for the community and the future of our beloved institution is dire. We walked out on March 27th after over a year and a half of contract negotiations. While management holds out over a relatively small amount of money, the museum's ability to fulfill current public funding obligations is actually in serious jeopardy. In recent decades, our commitment to 100% free programming has entailed significant support from city and state entities. Just in this 1 month of work stoppage has halted progress on free museum tours. It has halted progress on DCLA-funded art-making workshop focused on Mexican folk art. It has halted NISCA and DCLA-funded performances by artists who refuse to cross a picket line. It has halted DCLA-funded community mural project by artist Aurelio de Muro. It has halted our collaboration with Northern Manhattan Art Alliance in bringing installation by local artist Marta Chilindron. It has halted NISCA-funded outdoor film series in the Inwood Arc. It has halted the work of 4 Rockefeller Brothers Foundation-funded research fellows. It has halted the work of 5 immigrant artists funded by NISCA, and it has halted the pilot program for older adults funded by the Office of Manhattan Borough President. As bad as it is, the repercussion will become worse.
Sorry to interrupt. I believe that is time.
I was just about to say your time is up.
Gracias.
Thank you for that. I don't want to get into, as I said, this isn't really the forum for a back and forth. This is not like a quasi union negotiation, but I do want to I'm trying to figure out if you can respond, Guillaume, to the point specifically regarding public programming, because as you heard in my announcements at the beginning of the meeting and in the announcements of, Marty and Catherine and Julie, this committee is very much about spreading the word on what's happening, or to Raquel's point, what isn't happening. So can you talk a little bit about the extent to which the strike is taking away public programming and the extent to which that may jeopardize, in theory, if the strike ended tomorrow and everybody went back to work and everything were fine, then you can probably make up some of that public programming. in the balance of the fiscal year. But if this continues, to what extent does that not become possible to make it up? And to what extent does that jeopardize public funding of some of this forward-facing stuff and any other public funding that the museum is getting for capital?
Right. Yeah. Well, I think the assessment is right. I mean, the exhibitions are up, almost all of them. So that is not in jeopardy if we were to reopen tomorrow, which is not what will happen. As for other programs, public programs, group visits and all that is of course impossible with staff on strike, and it has repercussion on public funding indeed. This is why we are, very impatient to find a resolution to this crisis, and this is why we made this significant move in our last, during the mediation, confirming free healthcare, not only for historic employees but also for new and recent employees. So that's the last move, so to speak, and we hope that the union will come back to the bargaining table and that we can, discuss further and find a resolution to this situation. I think everyone wants a contract here.
Understood. Thank you. As someone did put in the chat, this is not the place for union grievances. So again, I don't really want to get too into that. We are not a labor negotiating committee, but I do appreciate Raquel raising her perspective and raising the issue of community forward-facing programming. And thank you, Guillaume, for that.
Of course.
For that response. Okay. I don't love having an agenda item that ends with such a non-resolution because, there is this obvious tension between management and the union. In the spirit of the resolution that we passed last month, I really hope that you all are able to work something out that is fair to the employees, fair to the institution, fair to the collections, and that we are able to visit our friends at the museum once it reopens with all of the employees working there again. So thank you all for that.
Thank you.
I would like to turn now at 7:36 to our open discussion on parks throughout the district. Folks who were here, who were here for other pieces of the agenda are welcome to stay for this discussion, but obviously not required to do so. So if you've got somewhere else to go, you are welcome to leave. But I want to, just by way of a quick introduction to this agenda item, we all know sort of what are some of the hotspots and what are some of the difficulties throughout the community in terms of park usage. I would very, very much like for people when they're making comments, when they're asking questions, to keep in mind that my priorities, my preferred use of the park, my way that I use and enjoy the parks may be different from your priorities, your way of using and enjoying the parks. And while there are certain things that are illegal, there are many things that are perfectly legal that some people like and other people do not. It's a big world. It's a crowded community. We all have to get along. We all have to figure out how to use parks in a way that makes us happy and doesn't make our neighbors unhappy. So as you ask questions, I would encourage you to assume good intent and to be kind with one another. So with that, I'm gonna ask Sergeant Maldonado. I'm just gonna recognize we've got Sergeant Maldonado from Parks enforcement, we've got Steve Simon, who is our community board colleague, but also the chief of staff for the Manhattan Borough Commissioner. We've got outgoing Jen and incoming Danny as Northern Manhattan Parks Administrator. And we had somebody from the 33rd precinct. Not seeing them. We'd invited folks from the 33rd and the 34th precinct. Hopefully they will come back. I did let them know that we would, 33rd still here. That's Ronnie Rodriguez. Okay, I'm going to promote you to panelist so that as we have conversation and questions about enforcement certainly in the lower section, we can get some input from that. So Sergeant Maldonado, if you can talk a little bit about what the staffing levels are and what's your plan as we go into the peak park using season for managing the chaos.
So good evening, everyone. My name is Sergeant Steve Maldonado. I work with Parks Enforcement Patrol for Northern Manhattan. I've been a part of Northern Manhattan since 2021. I also had the privilege of working for Northern Manhattan in 18 and 19 as well. About now approaching 7 years. I'm happy to be working with this community. I have family, loved ones, everyone around this community, so it's close to home. So in terms of staffing, my partner, Sergeant John Paul Rivera, and I, we have a total of 8 staff. So that's his team in the morning from 7:30 to 3:30. And then my team, we work from 2:30 to 11 p.m. Now, just to make everyone aware, though we address concerns in CB12 and CB12A, we also do have other commitments in other locations. We cover everything from 125th and up, from the Hudson River to the Harlem River. So that's CB9, 10, and 11. So just wanted to let everyone know that we're not only focused here, but we also have commitments everywhere else as well. So also to just let everyone know, PEP focus, our focus is always with education first. I know and we know that everybody's trying to have a good time in the park, to release the stress from a long day, just to enjoy their time with their loved ones, their family, their children. So we understand that whether or not they might have not known that they made a violation, we go in with the education first, educate them in what the park's rules and regulations are, to deter them from violating any rules in the future. If the situation does persist, though, our officers will summons the individual or within the location in the certain park due to the reoccurrence. To give a prime example, like Bennett Park is a location where we've have educated the individuals in the location in regards to community quality of life issues like dogs off leash. And if the community are just not adhering to those parks rules and regulations, then it will lead us to summons the individuals in that community. So just to make it very clear, EMS, fire, NYPD, call 911, utilize 911. But if you have any quality of life issues, please utilize the 311. Either you call or you utilize the app. That is the best way to get a hold of PEP to address any quality life concerns. For those that are not familiar of what are quality life concerns or violations, pretty much like dogs off leash, amplified sound, illegal vending, maybe personal vehicles blocking the street in the park, maybe while walking with your children, family, loved ones, you see a homeless encampment or drug paraphernalia used in the parks or playground. Anything within these manners or anything more, you could utilize the 311 app or call 311 to get PEP to address these concerns. Be very aware of where you are, because depending on where you are, the area may just be. So for example, like in Wood Hill Park, if you're in the trails, you may not know where you are. So just always be aware where you are to pinpoint the location. And if you need assistance, you know what you need to do in order to get the assistance there. And lastly, I know there's a big topic, motor vehicles like mopeds and scooters. I know there's a hot topic. I know this is a problem that's reoccurring often in our parks. So to be very clear, whether or not the rule has changed for the scooters or bikes, that doesn't mean it's changed for parks. Hasn't been allowed to be used on pedestrian paths, and is not right now not allowed to be used on pedestrian paths. That's pretty much the case at this point. Now, they are allowed to be in a setting where it's a designated road or parking area. So for example, for Tryon Park, it has a designated road and it has a parking area. So the individuals with the mopeds can use it on the designated road, but that does not mean they can use it on the pedestrian paths where people walk on. So just wanted to be very clear on that. And just a little mention in terms of Highbridge, if not familiar for those that live within the community, we have been experiencing fires as of late. Just to be, so everyone is aware, February 7th, March 20th, March 26th, and as of recent, April 9th. These dates we have experienced fires within Highbridge around 173rd Street in Amsterdam, but not necessarily on the street side, but on the pedestrian and bike path that leads to the historic Highbridge that crosses to the Bronx. So along that path, those are the areas where we've been experiencing fires. So if there's anyone that's kind of goes through there, bikes through there, and they smell anything or see anything, please call 911. If you see anything on fire, please call 911. If you smell anything and you don't see anything, still call 911. Maybe there's something there, but also call 311 just in case. But yeah, that's pretty much everything. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much for the open forum.
So what you're saying is if you smell something, say something.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
Okay. Jennifer, you want to add a little bit to that based on your experience?
No, I'd hoped to introduce Sergeant Maldonado and give an overview, but he did it and he did it well. So I'll stand down.
Okay. Ordinarily, I would have expected there to be some questions from attendees. I'm not seeing any raised hands. I did get one sort of fairly long question in the chat from someone who is not able to turn on their mic. So I'm reading these into the record from for Rajiv, who is not able to ask these questions. So there are two. One is there any analysis of the problem of non-compostable litter? For example, plastic confetti, mylar balloons, and the like, and any prevention or mitigation strategies for Northern Manhattan parks? And the second question is there any estimate of incidents of bikes and motor vehicles on the pathways in Fort Tryon and Inwood Hill Park? Is there any prevention or design strategy given that enforcement in the heat of the moment is difficult? And just to add to that, I know that pursuit, there's the policy of not pursuing because that creates an even bigger danger. So I appreciate, Rajiv, these two questions, and I'm just wondering what you've got by way of answers.
So last year, in terms of question two, last year we our Manhattan North team conducted a joint ops with joint operation with NYPD to address concerns like the mopeds. So for example, in Highbridge, at the same location where I was talking about recently, the Highbridge pedestrian path, we created a joint ops operation there to have the individuals who are driving the mopeds on the park, on the bridge, meet us, they need to stop, and then they will get issued the summons. There was pretty much no way from there afterwards, because as soon as they meet up with us right there, they will get summons. In regards to Fort Tryon or Inwood, is a vast open location. So if we do set up a joint operation at a certain point, the situation can be quite difficult in regards to how to trap them and issue that summons, or get a hold of the individual, as they might turn around and go to a different area. I will have to reach out with my partner and create a game plan on how to address these issues. But I also want to get information from the public in regards to where exactly are these individuals riding through, because it's not necessarily everywhere in the park, or maybe it's somewhere specific, and I'm just not privy to that information. So if the community wants to share that information and let us know where exactly, then we can fine tune the location on how we address these concerns.
Okay. Again, I'm not seeing hands raised. I can tell you from my own personal experience, I see bikes and mopeds throughout the pathways in Fort Tryon Park, in Inwood Hill Park, and in Highbridge Park. Bennett, not so much. Occasionally we'll see them in Isham Park, which is a little weird because it's a very small, intimate park. I sometimes do see them going down those steps because they're shallow steps. And if that's how you roll, for some people, no pun intended, that's some people's idea of a good time. Personally, I think that's an organ donation waiting to happen, but whatever. Catherine Fritz, you know what? I'm gonna just unmute you so that you can throw in your feedback.
I would just say thank you. And I live near Highbridge and walk there every day, and the mopeds and motorcycles, I mean, it's worse every day, and they're fast and silent and dangerous. So it's unclear to me, as like somebody who's walking in the park, what we can do.
And which park is this that you're saying? Highbridge.
Where exactly in Highbridge? Because Highbridge is very vast.
I walk along the path and then across the Highbridge to the Bronx and back. So
okay,
kind of
The
from,
access trail
yeah.
runs from Edgecombe 166 to the historic Highbridge.
They're obviously using it. People are using it to go between the Bronx and Manhattan both ways.
Right.
Okay.
At what times do you usually go around that area? Just a general time
It
frame.
could be all times. I don't think it has anything to do with the time or the day.
Okay.
I walk my dog there in the mornings, in the middle of the day, and the early evenings.
Okay. Thank you.
I do also want to just say to Catherine's point, something that we talked about a little bit last month, and here is a perfect example of this, that dog owners are such an important part of keeping our parks safe, because you all are in the parks at all different times and activating the park, helping to make it safe, and also being extra eyes and ears on some of the things that may be happening in the park that shouldn't be happening in the park. So thank you for that. Pat Courtney. I'm asking Pat to unmute. She might be having some difficulties with her mic. Are you good? Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't know you were calling on me. And I went out of the room.
Oh, no worries. Well, you had put something in the chat about a Q&A about the Isham Park, and it's just the Q&A and the chat aren't necessarily publicly viewable. So unless somebody is having like mic issues, I ask that anybody who's putting that kind of comment into the chat or Q&A to just speak on the record. So you had something to say about bikes and mopeds in Isham Park?
Yeah, basically the bikes cut through Isham Park on the path, on the alley path up and from Isham Street up, and cut across the park to Park Terrace East, or come down, you know, the alley path onto Park Terrace West. They ride on the sidewalks and through the park. It's it's pretty frequent. And today there was a motorcycle parked off the path as well. I don't know if it'll be there tomorrow. I'll check. I took a picture of it today. But.
Again, I know things happen often, but around what time frame? So that way I can share it with the team, and that way we could address the situation at a prompt fashion.
Thank you. Yes, it's during delivery times for meals, I think, most often.
Okay,
so these are food delivery guys, and you know they're pretty watchful about what they do, but they go pretty fast, and that's a big slope, you know, so you can be surprised by them on the slopes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Danny.
I'm
I'm sorry, Danny Bonilla as opposed to Danny Hernandez. One of you is gonna have to change your name.
You can just call me Bonilla.
Okay, Bonilla.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. It's mostly about the bike paths and all that stuff. And yes, that is nice that these people that are riding these electric vehicles are aware about what's happening, but they're not supposed to be on it. And I wish this, and I went to the traffic and transportation about this, but I wish that there was like awareness programs to the people that ride these mopeds, or someone, or have some kind of accountability for the drivers of these mopeds, because it's just like, okay, like going to the park, like, yeah, they're going to the park, they could hit someone. They're sometimes, most of the times, riding without helmets. We don't know if they're like delivery people or they're just like kids on mopeds and all that stuff. And I wish there was like kind of like maybe like a volunteer person that like stop people and just like tell them like, hey, like, you know, very respectfully and all that stuff, or I don't know, issue warrants or issue like some kind of like ticket. But even a ticket, it's like, okay, like I got a ticket, I'll throw it out, doesn't matter to me. I just like wish there was like either one, accountability, two, and some kind of like awareness program to tell people, hey, please, can you do it this way? Because, and I've stopped several of these guys too, and I told them like, hey, not on the sidewalk or not in the park, or not, you know, like do your business, but out on the streets, because you can get anywhere through the streets, you know?
So you're talking about like a public service campaign or some kind of ad campaign or public education? Is that?
Yeah, something like that. Because like even the other day, I was going through the East Side Path, and 3 motorized scooters, like I think those should be class B or class D, like considered in the DMV, where they go up to like 30 to 40 miles an hour on the actual path when they could just be on the actual highway. And it's like that path is so narrow. So these guys are going like 20, 30 miles an hour through that narrow path. Quite possibly could hit someone that is facing the other way and just like turns around by mistake. They're injured, you know, and then the person on the bike is injured.
Okay, I think we got it. So I guess the question to you, Sergeant Maldonado, it is, I know that in terms of enforcement, you don't necessarily have the kind of staff to be everywhere all the time and catching people and really speaking to this. Is there some kind of public education campaign that Parks Enforcement can be doing that is seasonal in nature, that speaks to, you know, perhaps not just the use of motorized vehicles or bicycles of any kind on park paths, but, you know, littering and clean up after yourself and barbecuing, and here are, you know, summer is coming and here are the things, here are the rules for the parks in a sort of public service kind of educational campaign way. Do you have any capacity for that?
I could speak to in regard to my captain is Captain David Calderon. He oversees the organization, I mean the operation for everything in this Manhattan North and Central Park and above. I can relay this message, and I can speak with him in trying to find a way to appease the community in this regard. I currently don't have the answers to that question, but I could definitely pass that question forward. And
I mean, because like the FDNY will often do in like when it starts getting cold out, they'll do these public service campaigns about like space heaters and plugging things in and not using extension cords, and around the holidays to not use candles in certain ways. And the kinds of messaging that the FDNY has been doing recently around like e-bikes and lithium batteries, that messaging is clearly effective. Because I'm hearing from people who live in buildings, including my own building, I'm seeing signs on doors that say keep this closed. So we know that kind of messaging works. We know that when the urban park rangers and when parks enforcement is out on like Memorial Day weekend, handing out garbage bags saying, here are the rules and please clean up after yourselves, we see a real increase in compliance and a real decrease in trash. So if you've got any kind of capacity to do that, that might be really helpful. I don't want to hog the floor. I want to recognize Daryl and then Steve.
Thanks, Liz. Yeah, and I definitely want to say I agree with what Daniel was saying earlier. And I do think there needs to be more signage in general, might be helpful. But Liz, to what you were saying, I don't know if not knowing is so much the issue as people just not caring or not respecting, unfortunately. I think by and large, many people that do that probably do know that it's not legal.
Okay, that is a very fair point. Steve.
Yeah, thank you. The suggestion of having the public education campaign is, I think, something that's been discussed at the Parks Department, and I think we may be preparing to undertake a campaign, an anti-littering campaign. But so I think this goes beyond something that would be done by the Parks Enforcement Patrol itself, and so let me look into that and get back to you, because I think that there may in fact be something that's in the works.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love that. Thank you. Okay. Noemi Diaz, I'm just going to go ahead and unmute you because you've got a question/comment.
Hey, good evening, guys. I just wanted to share that this past weekend, We Run Uptown is a running club, and they did an amazing job just going around the community and kind of promoting picking up after yourself. They partner up with I forget the organization, but they run throughout the whole city, basically promoting within the community, just like more cleanliness. So that using the platforms that we have available in our community and spread that information would be amazing. That was all. Thank you, Liz.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much.
I think it's called the Trash Project, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I actually want to bring Sergeant Rodriguez into the conversation from the 33rd. Obviously, most of the park's real estate in Community Board 12 is in the 34th precinct, but all of the area of Highbridge Park, the southern end of Highbridge Park is in the 33rd. We've got McKenna Square. We've got a piece of Washington and Riverside Park in the 33rd, and a bunch of playgrounds as well. So I'm just wondering, Sergeant Rodriguez, if you can speak a little bit to, there's always a little bit of, I don't want to say tension, but there's not always total clarity between what's parks enforcement and what's the PD. So if you could talk a little bit about the PD experience of enforcement in parks.
Hi, good evening.
Hi.
Hi. So yeah, so basically anything in the Parks Department is actually parks, but like Sergeant Maldonado said, we've done joint collaborations with the Parks Department in the past. And recent times I do have my officers do directives in the parks, especially after a school turnout inside High Bridge.
Mhm.
But yeah, we help out if we can, when we can. You know, every day I basically have my guys do directives inside the parks in our area of the precinct.
Okay. So there's a difference between like a 311 and a 911. Since PEP are unarmed peace officers and the NYPD are armed, can I assume that if it's a 911 situation, it's appropriate for the NYPD to respond? I mean, unless of course it's a fire, in which case that's the fire department.
Correct. If it's 911, we're most likely going to respond instead of Parks Department. I think they might respond as well. I'm not sure, but I know definitely we would respond.
Okay, thank you. All right, I want to be mindful of Lyle Blackwood's time. I know that he needed to leave right about now. I had asked DOT to join in on this meeting just because sometimes the quality of life and security issues in parks relate to lighting. And I just wanted to see if there were any particular issues that folks had about lighting, which would be DOT's purview. I mean, I personally know that there are some definite lighting issues all along that path that runs parallel to the bike path and pedestrian path that runs parallel to the Henry Hudson Parkway. Many of those lights have been out, and I just am wondering if DOT can speak to that. And I want to find out from folks in the meeting if there are other areas of concern with respect to lighting.
Hi again, Liz. Regarding the lights along the Henry Hudson, I think that you had written to us or through Debbie as far as the lighting along that path. I don't have an update in time for this meeting, but I can definitely check with our street lighting division to see if they have any updates. I know that they've been doing some upgrades around the city, and they've been replacing some old wiring that's been more or less there for the longest, whether anywhere on the city. But I can definitely check to see what's going on. I don't have an update yet, unfortunately.
Okay.
But if there are other locations, on the pathways of parks of town, we can definitely take a look. I could give a heads up to our street lighting division, and we can send somebody out there to inspect and see if we can do something about the lighting.
I appreciate that.
No problem.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions that people have? Going once, going twice. Is this meeting actually going to be ending at before 8:30? Huh. Okay. Well, I want to thank everybody for their participation in this. I want to encourage people to, use 311 and use 911 appropriately. I want to encourage people to continue to be out in the parks and using the parks appropriately. And, as Danny pointed out, when we have issues with folks in parks, we can talk to each other. Like, yes, it's very helpful to have uniformed people whose job is to enforce things, and it can feel very threatening to walk up to a stranger and ask them to not do something that they're doing that's bothering you, but there's a way to do it. And I think that if you smile and are friendly, and I've asked people, hey, do you mind turning that down a little bit? Or would you like a garbage bag so you can pick up this trash? Or did you know you're not supposed to ride on the path? To Daryl's point, sure, sometimes people are like, yeah, what's it to you? Expletive deleted, and they go riding off, and that's unpleasant. But quite often, when you ask people to do the right thing, if you do it with kindness, they often will. So that's my 2 cents. What you got, Danny?
No, I just wanted to congratulate Jennifer on her new position, and thanks for being here for us for like the past 16 years, is it?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you for being here for us, and I wish you the best at your new position.
Thank you so much, Danny. It's been my pleasure to serve, alongside people in my community. I moved up here because I loved the parks, and I didn't even work for the Parks Department yet. I was doing parks though for the borough president in her land use division, parks, historic preservation and waterfront. So I walked through Fort Tryon Park once, turned to my husband and said, we're moving here. I have to have this every day. And we have such great parks up here, but equally important, we have such great people that are working with us to improve our parks. So it's really been a pleasure. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for everything that that you do. Thank you for everything that you've done. Thank you in advance for everything that I know you're going to continue to do. Danny Hernandez, thank you for having been a great partner when I've worked with you before on local issues. And I am excited to have you back in this role. Yeah, I think I have to say that more than most of my colleagues on the community board, I have really, really, really good partners in government who are accessible and responsive. And no disrespect, Lyle, Debbie speaks very, very highly of you, but this really is the best committee, and we have the best agencies. There, I said it. So anyway,
I can say for you, this is the best committee ever.
Well, thank you for that. All right, so
at 8:10, is there a motion to adjourn? Is that?
I believe that was the motion to adjourn.
Is that okay?
Motion to
Okay.
adjourn.
Okay, so
Second. Okay.
fantastic. Thank you all so much, and I will see you back. We'll be back to our regular date, the second Tuesday of the month in May, still on Zoom. And everybody have a great evening.
Thank you.